Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradhayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Tvashe Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. It's actually deeply inappropriate for me to be sitting here when there are many more senior and exalted Vaishnavas in the audience, like Her Grace Jai Shri Mataji, His Grace Vijay Prabhu, and other Vaishnavas here. Please take this as a presentation of what I have learned from devotees like them. And devotees of their experience in caliber. Today's Nityananda Trayodashi. It's a day which is often not heard of or understood among most people. Who here has come for the temple for the first time? Hare Krishna. Who here has heard of Lord Nityananda? Please raise your hand. Who here is hearing about Lord Nityananda for the first time? Nobody? So everybody's heard about Lord Nityananda before? No? Okay. So there are some who have not heard about Lord Nityananda. Among those who come from an Indian background, usually secrets about Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda are hidden. Many people know about Krishna. Everybody knows about Krishna in India and those connected to Vedic culture. They even know about Lord Balaram, although he is still less understood. But practically very few know about Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. And for those who are coming for the first time, you can see on the leftmost corner of the altar, so in the middle you see Sri Radha and Krishna. On the right-hand side, many of you may be familiar, here you have Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra. But to the leftmost corner, you have two very small deities. They're sometimes missed when you come to the Radha Gopinath temple. But they are actually very, very important. In fact, amongst the different, in our worship of Radha and Krishna, the worship of Lord Nityananda and Lord Gauranga is of principal importance. Because as we shall see today, in our brief talk of about half an hour, without the presence of Lord Nityananda and Lord Gauranga, in this particular day and age, it is impossible to imagine or conceive of worshipping the Supreme Lord, Sri Radha Krishna, Radha Gopinath. So who is Lord Nityananda? As Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and Lord Balaram is the principal servitor of the Supreme Lord. Similarly, Sri Krishna Chaitanya or Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. And Lord Nityananda is the same Lord Balaram, who comes as the first servitor of Lord Chaitanya. So this understanding was not even known to people 500 years ago when Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda appeared. Because when Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda appeared, the majority of people, particularly in the area of Bengal, where Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya appeared, were principally involved in either logic or grammar or intricacies of Sanskrit literature that did not have anything to do with devotional service to Lord Krishna. At that time, Sri Advaita Acharya, another personality whom we will not be talking about today, he sat by the bank of Ganga and he said, to bring the people here of Navadvip, or the people that I see around me, to the devotional service of Krishna is not possible. I can't do it on my own strength. Sometimes Advaita Acharya felt so upset to see, in fact all the Vaishnavas there felt so upset to see, that everybody was talking about anything and everything else. They were arguing about subject matters that were completely useless. Why? because these subject matters would not help one in answering the actual questions of life. Why am I here? For me, I'm 36 years old. I have finished half or more than half of my life. In another 30, 20, 40 years, I don't expect to be here anymore. Learning Sanskrit, learning any language, learning logic, learning philosophy, learning intricacies of different subject matters is only so useless as it's only useful to the extent that it helps me answer the question of why am I here? What am I doing? Where am I going in life? And people of those in that time didn't care about those real questions. What is it that actually makes me happy? Who am I in my innermost core of my heart? So this is explained. At the core of my heart, I'm a servant of Krishna. I'm a servant of Radha and Krishna. And in my heart, I have a hole, the shape of Radha and Krishna. And because I have that hole, that vacancy in my heart, in my life, I go about my entire day trying to fill it with everything else, trying to get some type of satisfaction. But without the actual satisfaction of who I am and what makes me happy, the service of Radha and Krishna, I just wander around, filling my heart with different things and then throwing it out because it doesn't make me happy. So Advaitacharya, sitting on the bank of Ganga, was so upset, not because his words were not being heeded, but because he saw that people were suffering and they didn't care about what the actual solution was. And he thought, I want to get them to chant Krishna's names. I want them to understand that worship of Krishna is the thing that will actually make them happy. And to do this, I need the presence of Krishna himself. I need Krishna to be here. And so he sat on the bank of the Ganga. He worshipped his Shalagram Shila because every Brahmana would worship Shalagram Shila. He was worshipping Shalagram Shila, and Krishna doesn't ask for much. Advaitacharya was worshipping him with water from the Ganga, tulasi, and a whole load of bhakti. And his cries, Krishna, please come. Krishna, please come. I can't help anybody here on my own. Those cries, they penetrated the coverings of the universe and reached Krishna's ears. And Krishna later said it woke him up. It penetrated through the material covering, and Krishna woke up and he thought, I must come. My servant is calling me, I must come. So Krishna came as Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And alongside Lord Chaitanya came all of his associates, because you never see Krishna alone. Prabhupada one time said, you look at a picture of Krishna, sometimes you see painters, they paint Krishna alone, but Krishna is never alone. He's either with his flute, who's a person, he's with his tree, kadamba tree, or a tamal tree sometimes, or he's by the bank of the Yamuna with a deer, a cow, or with his other associates. But the entire universe and all of the universes, they serve Krishna. And so when Krishna comes, he comes with his eternal associates. And so when Krishna came as Lord Chaitanya, Balaram came as Lord Nityananda. And Lord Nityananda came principally, and Balaram came as the principal servant of Lord Chaitanya. To understand the kind of services that Balaram or Lord Nityananda conduct to serve Krishna or Lord Chaitanya, one can imagine of every paraphernalia used to serve the Lord. Like here, for example, you see that there are lamps in front of the altar. Sometimes you see flowers. You see that the Lord is sitting on an asana. These are not dead matter, because it is impossible for dead matter to be used in the service of the Lord. It is matter, but when it comes in contact with the Lord, it becomes transformed with Lord Balaram Shakti, with Lord Nityananda Shakti. And particularly when there are those instruments used in the spreading of Krishna's names, in the spreading of Krishna's glories. Like, for example, you see this harmonium, you see this kartal, you see the mridanga. These are instruments of Sankirtan. Or you see these books here that present Krishna's glories. All of these elements are transformations of Lord Nityananda's potency. He expands as these different instruments, as these different objects used in the service of Lord Chaitanya. So when we think about Lord Nityananda, we're not just thinking about an abstract personality. We are thinking about Balaram himself, who is basically non-different to Krishna. It is said that the only difference between Krishna and Balaram is their skin color. Krishna is blackish in color, and Balaram is pearly white in his complexion. But with respect to their potencies and power, they're completely identical. And one should understand the same thing about Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. It is sometimes said it is like you have one soul in two bodies. It is sometimes said that they're like brothers, inseparable from one another. They are, there's a verse, and you can see it on the whiteboard over there, which was discussed this morning, which reads, Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Saha Udito. It says that these two brothers, Shri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, they appeared on the horizon of Bengal together, like the sun and the moon together. Lord Chaitanya being the sun, and Lord Nityananda being like the moon. They came to show light in this dark age, where people are forgetful of who they are, forgetful of the short lifespan that we have, and forgetful of the fact that the thing that we're actually looking for is devotional service to Lord Krishna. So the importance of this day is that we are celebrating the appearance of Lord Nityananda. Now, Lord Nityananda appeared some, I think, 11 years before the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. But importantly, he didn't actually reveal himself to the world until Lord Chaitanya was ready to inaugurate the Sankirtan movement. So Lord Nityananda appeared and he manifested many pastimes, which can be read in a book called Sri Nityananda Charitamrita. This is written by his disciple, Vrindavan Das Thakur. But he manifested many childhood pastimes. He traveled around India to different holy places. And then when he came to Vrindavan, he just waited there. He waited until the time that Lord Chaitanya revealed himself to be Krishna himself. And he had inaugurated the Sankirtan movement. When Lord Chaitanya decided to inaugurate the Sankirtan movement, at that point, Lord Nityananda left Vrindavan and he started walking over to Nadia or to Navadvip, where Lord Chaitanya was personally present. And Lord Nityananda came to Navadvip and he sat in the house of Nandanacharya. For those who have been to ISKCON Mayapur, who here has been to ISKCON Mayapur? So if you've been to ISKCON Mayapur, you may not have always observed this, but you just walk a little further down that particular road on the bank of the Ganga, and there's a Gaudiya Math there. And that Gaudiya Math is the place of Nandana Acharya, one of the associates of Lord Chaitanya. And in Nandanacharya's house, Lord Nityananda came and he just sat down. Lord Chaitanya the previous night had had a dream. He'd had a dream that on a chariot, a beautiful personality, dressed like Balaram, in blue dhoti with pearly white skin, complexion, he had come and he asked, where is this Nimai? I've heard that there's a personality Nimai here. Please take me to him. And so Lord Chaitanya, he woke up the next day and he called the devotees. He said, I had a very auspicious dream. A very great personality has come to Navadvip here. And he said, I want all of you. He told all of the associates there. Please go through the streets of Navadvip. Please go into people's houses and find out where is this personality. Now, Nandanacharya's house from where Lord Chaitanya was about 1 kilometer or 2 down the road. But the devotees, they spent half a day or a day searching for Lord Nityananda, and they could not find him. They went to street after street, they went to house after house. Finally, they came to Lord Chaitanya disappointed. And Lord Chaitanya said, I will take you. Accompanied by all of the devotees, they walked down the street of Navadvip. And Lord Chaitanya led all of the devotees directly to Lord Nityananda's house. Directly to Lord Nityananda's house. Nandanacharya's house. And there the devotees could see one very grave personality. By the way, can my voice be heard at the back? Or is it very soft? It's very soft? Is that better? Sorry, please tell me. So he saw one very grave personality sitting on a bedstead. And this grave personality was just sitting there. He didn't get up. He didn't have any particular expression on his features. But his eyes were just absorbed in the Lord of his life, Lord Chaitanya. And as Lord Chaitanya came in with all the devotees, Lord Chaitanya was standing there just gazing at Lord Nityananda. And Lord Nityananda was sitting there just gazing at Lord Chaitanya. And all the devotees, they were very quiet because they knew that something special was actually happening. Srivas Pandit, who was one of the associates of Lord Chaitanya, was standing nearby. And he understood Lord Chaitanya's mood. Understanding this mood, he recited one of the 3 verses in Srimad Bhagavatam that are considered to be a perfect description of Krishna. All the Bhagavatam verses are a perfect description of Krishna. But these 3 verses in particular are considered to be the topmost description of Krishna. And this particular verse comes in the 21st chapter of the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, where the gopis are speaking of Krishna and Balaram entering the forest. And the verse starts, Barhapidam Natavarabapu. It describes Krishna and Balaram walking through the forest with the trees of Vrindavan coming forward to touch their lotus feet. It describes that Krishna was wearing a blue Karnikara flower. Karnikara is a specific type of flower. But he was wearing this blue Karnikara flower in his ear. And the moment this description of Krishna entered Lord Nityananda's ears, he went wild. He jumped up, he started spinning around, and nobody could catch him. He was spinning in one place, spinning another, chanting Krishna's name, roaring incessantly like a lion. Tears were falling from his eyes like torrents and torrents of rain. His dress became wet with his tears. At some point, his body became pale because Lord Nityananda, unlike Lord Balaram, is blackish in complexion. Balaram is whitish in complexion. Lord Nityananda is blackish in complexion. His body became pale with emotion. And he jumped up into the sky, or as far as the roof would allow. And the way he fell down, people were afraid that his bones would break. And they had roaring Sankirtan, where Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya were dancing together in the middle of the circle. And all the Vaishnavas were chanting Krishna's names and singing verses that would inspire the devotion of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda tried to catch hold of each other's feet while simultaneously trying to prevent the other from catching their feet. And in this way, Lord Chaitanya introduced the glories of Lord Nityananda to all the devotees. But Lord Nityananda is a personality who has often been misunderstood. Because, remember, his principal mood is one of service to Lord Chaitanya. There's nothing else in his mind. And the order that he was in was the renounced order, the sannyas order. But as a sannyasi, he would wear usually blue garments, or he would wear rich garments and carry different jewels on his body. Now, this is not typical for a sannyasi. And later on the order of Lord Chaitanya, he got married and had a son. So it really, really confused a lot of people. Who is this personality who is both a sannyasi, who's a paramahamsa, who has ecstatic love for Krishna, but at the same time is all above all rules and regulations? How do we understand him? And so there were people actually who didn't have faith in Lord Nityananda. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, there is a description by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami of what happened to somebody who had faith in Lord Nityananda and somebody who did not. And the story is, in fact, biographical. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was staying in a particular village with his brother. And Ramadas, Miniketan Ramdas, was one of the great associates of Lord Nityananda. Miniketan Ramdas, he came to where Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was. And he sat in his courtyard, maybe under a tree. Miniketan Ramdas was so absorbed in love for Krishna that whomever he saw, whomever he contacted, they themselves would become ecstatic with love for Krishna. And this is actually the symptom that one would have when associating with Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya. It is said in the scriptures that an incarnation of the Lord is known through two things. One, by the scriptures themselves. The scriptures mention the appearance of this personality. And number two, their activities are so extraordinary that it is not possible for a human being to replicate them in any way. And so this was an exhibition of extraordinary potency. How, by just looking at someone, do you manifest symptoms of ecstatic love of God? Not just by looking at someone who had associated with Lord Nityananda. How do you develop ecstatic love of God? This is unseen or unheard of. And this is the specific mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. Anybody who contacts them becomes happy. Anybody who contacts them develops great affection for Krishna. Anybody who contacts those who contact Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, they develop love for Krishna. This is the symptom of associating with Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. So Miniketan Ramdas was sitting in the courtyard of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And Kaviraj Goswami's brother had faith in Lord Chaitanya, but he did not have faith in Lord Nityananda. When Miniketan Ramdas heard this, he became upset. He had a flute, he broke the flute, and he walked away. That brother did not achieve an auspicious end. But when Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he heard of the way his brother had dealt with Miniketan Ramdas, the way he had interacted with him and by his actions and demeanor shown a lack of faith in Lord Nityananda, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami began to chastise him left and right. He's like, how can you do this? Do you not know who Lord Nityananda is? Do you not know that without the mercy of Lord Nityananda, there is no hope of achieving the mercy of Lord Chaitanya? And that night, Lord Nityananda appeared in the dreams of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And he said, "O Kaviraj, do not become unhappy over this incident. Go right now to Vrindavan. Take shelter of the associates of Lord Chaitanya, and you will achieve an auspicious end." Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami received this empowerment by Lord Nityananda. So therefore, our acharyas, they consistently warn us in their literatures, and they remind us, it is not just okay to ignore Lord Nityananda. And therefore you see, Srila Prabhupada, actually before Srila Prabhupada started installing deities of Gaur Nitai, typically you would see deities of Gaur, of Lord Gauranga, typically, or in some instances you would see Gaur Gadadhar. In selected instances you would see Gauranga and Lord Nityananda side by side. But in every ISKCON temple, you will see Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. And the specific sweetness of the deities installed in Prabhupada's temples is that Gaur Nitai typically have their hands raised like this. This indicates their extreme benevolence, acceptance of everybody, and their own blissful mood of Sankirtan. They are themselves constantly immersed in chanting Krishna's names and inspiring others to chant Krishna's names also. What I wanted to read for you was from a book called Prarthana. This book, Prarthana, was written by a devotee called Narottam Das Thakur. Now that we know who Lord Nityananda is, now that we know the necessity of approaching him, we want to examine from the writings of Narottam Das Thakur the proper mood by which one actually approaches Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. So this book, Prarthana, the word literally means prayer. And it is a book written for those who have understood that achieving the service of Radha and Krishna is the principal goal of my life. It's a book of prayers that establishes the proper mood by which we approach Krishna, we approach Radha and Krishna to be able to serve them. And in the very, very first song, Narottam Das Thakur says, Gauranga bolite habe pulaka sharira, Hari Hari bolite nayane bhavinira. When will that day come when, by chanting Gauranga's name, by chanting the name of Lord Chaitanya, my body, the hairs of my body will stand up? When, therefore, after chanting the name of Gauranga, when I chant the name of Hari, when will tears come from my eyes? And then he goes on to say, Ara kabe nitai chander koruna habe, samsara vasana mora kabe tucha habe. Because the thing that prevents us, when we're chanting Krishna's names, from developing love for Krishna, it is sometimes called the biggest obstacle in our life. It is the anchor of material desires. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he gives this example. Imagine that you have a river and there's a party waiting to cross from one side of the river to the other. The boatman could be rowing. But imagine the boatman has a large anchor which he throws over to the side, which completely weighs the boat down. No matter how much the boatman keeps rowing, or in other words, chanting Krishna, Krishna, or Hare Krishna, the progress that he's able to make is always stunted. And he could be rowing the whole day, the whole night, in fact, for lifetimes. But his ability to cross the shore, to cross the river of birth and death, to go to the shore of direct service to the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna will be limited. But at that point, this is where our acharyas say, we approach Lord Nityananda. And this is the verse that speaks of approaching Lord Nityananda. Ara kabe nitai chander karuna habe, samsara vasana mora kabe tucha habe. He says, O Lord Nityananda, when will you be merciful to me? Because a symptom of your giving your mercy to me is that all my material desires will appear insignificant. And this is what Srila Prabhupada writes about this particular verse. Prabhupada says, quoting Narottam Das Thakur. So Narottam Das Thakur says, Ara kabe nitai chander karuna habe. We are all asking about the mercy of Lord Nityananda. Nityananda is supposed to be the original spiritual master. So we have to approach Gauranga, Lord Chaitanya, through the mercy of Lord Nityananda. What is the symptom of a person who has achieved the causeless mercy of Lord Nityananda? Narottam Das Thakur says that the symptom of one who has actually received the causeless mercy of Lord Nityananda is that he has no more material desire. Ara kabe nitai chander karuna habe, samsara bhasana mora kabe tucha habe. Samsara bhasana means desire for material enjoyment. And Narottam Das wonders when it will become very insignificant. Of course, as long as we have bodies, we have to accept so many material things, but not in the spirit of enjoyment, but only to keep the body and soul together. And Prabhupada continues, he says, we should simply aspire for the service of Krishna. And if by Krishna's grace that stage we can reach, the symptoms of ecstasy will come automatically. But Narottam Das Thakur says that it is not possible to reach that stage without being freed from material affection. Therefore, he says, Ara kabe nitai chander karuna habe. When will that day come when Lord Nityananda's mercy will be bestowed upon me? So that the next stanza in the song, this result will ensue. Vishaya chadiya kabe shuddha habe mana. He says, that my heart will be purified and I'll actually be able to glimpse Vrindavan. Prabhupada continues, he says, Tucha habe means a thing which we calculate as having no value. Throw it away. Similarly, spiritual advancement is possible when one is convinced that this material world and this material happiness is no value. It cannot give me any real bliss of life. This conviction is very much necessary. Samsara vasana mora kabe tucha habe. And he also says that when I shall be free from the desires of material enjoyment, then it will be possible to see the real nature of Vrindavan. When my mind will be completely purified, uncontaminated from the material contamination, at that time it will be possible for me to see what is actually Vrindavan. In the course of Narottam Das Thakur's book Prarthana, he begins to aspire for many transcendental services at the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. But after some time, he returns to a particular conviction. This conviction is expressed in 3 songs. Conviction in the desire to serve Radha and Krishna, conviction in Lord Chaitanya, and conviction in Lord Nityananda. Because one has to simultaneously have the aspiration to serve Krishna, but also one must hold on, Narottam Das Thakur says, with great faith to the mercy of Lord Nityananda's lotus feet. He in fact calls Lord Nityananda's lotus feet as his only wealth. Lord Nityananda's feet are a wealth because it is through this wealth that we are able to attain the service of Radha and Krishna. And so Narottam Das Thakur sings, and please bear with me as I find this song. It is a very famous song, Nitai Pada Kamala Koti Chandra Shushitala. So this is what Lord Nityananda, this is the translation of this particular song. The song goes, Nitai Pada Kamala Koti Chandra Shushitala. The lotus feet of Lord Nityananda are as cooling as many thousands and thousands and crores and literally hundreds of thousands of moons. Jai Chayaya Jagat Judhaya. When one catches on to the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, if one is able to catch on to the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, this world one is able to give up. Hena Nitai Bhine Bhai Radha Krishna Paite Nai. If one does not have Lord Nityananda, then one is not able to obtain the service of Radha and Krishna. Drida Khari Dhara Nitai Yera Pai. Therefore, my dear brothers, please hold on with great conviction to the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. Se Sambandha Nahi Jar Brita Janma Gelatar. If after hearing about Lord Nityananda, one does not inquire more about him, one does not try to make a relationship with him, then one's birth is utterly useless. Say Pashu Bhada Durachar. This person is just like an animal and a great miscreant. Nitai na bhalila muke majila samsara sukhe. Not chanting the names of Lord Nityananda, just becoming absorbed in this material world. Vidya kule ki kharibetar. What is the purpose of all the knowledge that one acquires, all the connections and the parentage one has? None of this will actually help one. Ahankare matahaya nitai pada pashariya. If one, because of some sense of self-pride, I know what I'm doing, I know how to worship Krishna, there's no need for me to approach Lord Nityananda. If with that feeling, one does not catch the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, one will continue to accept asatyere satya karimani. That which is false, that which is temporary, that which has no value, one will continue to accept that as being the truth. Nitai yera koruna habe bhraje Radha Krishna pabe dhare nitai charana khu dukhani. He says that I am very unhappy, and if I want to obtain the service of Radha and Krishna, I have to catch hold of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. Nitai yera charana satya. Know, my dear brothers, that the feet of Lord Nityananda are not false, they are eternal truth. Tanhara sevaka nitya. Service to Lord Nityananda is an eternal fact. Nitai pada sadakara ash, and aspire for, greatly desire the service of Lord Nityananda. Narottama bhada dukhi, nitai more kare sukhi. I am extremely unhappy. O Nityananda, the name Nityananda, Nitya means eternal, Ananda means blissful or happy. And Narottam Das Thakur is saying, I am very unhappy, and by the mercy of Lord Nitya Ananda, I will become eternally happy. Narottama bhada dukhi nitai more kare sukhi, rakha ranga charanera pash. Please, O Lord Nityananda, keep me in the corner of your lotus feet. So far, and we will be ending soon, we have explained the position of Lord Nityananda, the importance of approaching him to approach the service of Radha and Krishna. The question then is, how do we have faith in Lord Nityananda? We have not necessarily met him. We may read about him. How do we obtain the mercy of Lord Nityananda? How do we obtain conviction that the service of Lord Nityananda can grant every perfection? Prabhupada says that the key to understand here is that Lord Nityananda is the original spiritual master. He teaches us how to serve Krishna. He teaches us how to serve Lord Chaitanya. Our spiritual master, any devotee who teaches the science of Krishna, is a representative of Lord Nityananda. Because Lord Nityananda is the original guru, our spiritual master, the representative of Lord Nityananda, represents his desires. When one approaches our spiritual master or any senior mentor who is teaching us the science of Krishna and follows his instructions and takes on responsibility in Srila Prabhupada's movement under a mentor's or spiritual master's direction to assist Srila Prabhupada in spreading devotional service in the world, one obtains the mercy of Lord Nityananda. His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Maharaj once in Bombay, he said, to obtain the mercy of Lord Nityananda, you need to obtain the mercy of those whom Lord Nityananda wants to give mercy to. So he said, if you want to obtain the mercy of Lord Nityananda, you need to obtain the mercy of Jagai and Madai. His point was, go distribute books. Go distribute books and obtain the mercy of those. When you take on responsibility, because Lord Nityananda's mood was to spread Krishna consciousness under the instructions of Lord Chaitanya. When one takes on some little bit of that responsibility under the guidance of Lord Nityananda's representative, then one obtains the mercy of Lord Nityananda. Obtaining the mercy of Lord Nityananda, one obtains the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And as our acharyas sing, those who therefore, through this Sankirtan movement, dive very deep into the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, they resurface in the reservoir of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So this is our process. And on this particular day, as Narottam Das Thakur has prayed, we can pray to Lord Nityananda for strength, for the ability to chant Krishna's names. We can beg for the ability to chant Krishna's names. And we can beg for the ability to be a small part in whatever way we are capable of doing, in assisting him, assisting our spiritual master, assisting Srila Prabhupada in distributing Krishna's names to others. Obtaining the mercy of Lord Nityananda in this way, obtaining through him the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, one can obtain the service of Radha and Krishna. Hare Krishna. Nityananda Trayodashi ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. So I believe we're now going to have half an hour of kirtan, followed by Gaura Arati. Prashadam is served outside. Hare Krishna.